Welcome back to Solo Spotlight. I'm your host, Ryan McDougall, and today's guest is a good friend of mine, Anthony Demore, aka Tangled Angler on social media. He's the guy who will wake up at 4:30 in the morning, drive 4 hours, hike 10 kilometers, and still call it a win if he catches no fish. Why? Because it's not just about the fishing. It's about the process, solitude, and just showing up. In this one, we'll get into the good stuff, why anglers guard their spots, and how to be respectful about it, the headspace that keeps you calm when the day doesn't go your way, and a plain English look at protecting our rivers without turning it into a lecture. We also talk resilience, work, life, and learning to let go when you can't control the current. If you like conversations like this, subscribe, drop a comment below with what solitude means to you, and go show my friend Anthony some love at Tangled Angler on Instagram. With that, let's get into it. But welcome to Solo Spotlight. How you doing, man?
Good. I
Good.
appreciate you having me. It's been too long, and it's really cool. I like the direction you're going. And when you asked me to be a part of it, I was really excited. So
Yeah, it's very excited. Give people your name for
I'm Anthony.
yeah. Anthony goes under the social media name Tangle Angler. Talk about how life's been, because we probably haven't seen each other in what, 2 years?
Yeah, pretty close. I
Yeah.
think I officially switched professions. Yeah, about almost 3 years.
And you're in sales
Maybe.
now?
Yeah. So
Sales.
I work in the energy industry. I work with producers. I work
Mhm.
with end users, contractors, distributors, and I travel through parts of Saskatchewan, all over Alberta, just maintaining relationships, building new relationships, and
Mhm.
solving problems.
Do you find that because a lot of your jobs were like anchored on like good communications?
Yes. I mean, being able to communicate yourself effectively is essential in any walk of life, but I think the skill that goes underrated and I mean, I'm sure you can relate to this, is the ability to understand and listen and interpret so that you can respond in a meaningful way. And, I think that's just as important.
Yeah. What doing this podcast has made me learn the most has been like giving people more like room in a conversation and being less I the first initial word I have is dominant, but I think it's like giving space to like actually try to retain that information, because before this, I'd listen to talk. Communication is like probably the most underrated skill.
I think so. I think everything in life, whether it's your professional life, any hobbies you have, like if you're playing a sport, your personal life, communication is the essence to maintaining healthy relationships.
And also, what I learned too is because I've had some guests on, and it's been the most humbling experience because I've had them on, and my initial, like, what I'm going to go in as was like, I think this person's full of shit. And, I think what this person's doing is kind of weird. And I have like my own preconceived notions. And then they come in and they're a fucking awesome person. And then you're like, man, I was a real like POS about that, and not that I was like trying to like put that on them, or I was like using that as like an angle of the conversation, but like my own like misconceptions or biases against things
Yeah.
of like, they're probably not going to have much to talk about or whatever it is. And then they come out and they're like really fucking awesome. And you kind of have to look at yourself and be like, man, I need to give like a lot more like consideration to what people do. Like they've gained
It
all
reinforces it.
right.
I was told when I first got into sales that the only way to fill up your brain is to listen. And when you open your mouth, you empty it. And you got to keep a full brain. And you have two ears and one mouth for a reason.
Yeah.
And it was one of the most simple but profound things I'd ever been told.
Hmm.
And it's amazing what you can learn from people just by listening.
Yeah. It's great, man. And that's why I love doing this. But yeah, like the way we got reconnected, it was really interesting because you were into like fishing and I don't fish at all. I went on a vacation in Manitoba and I was fishing with Emily's uncle and I didn't catch one fish. I took a picture with the fish that he caught, pretended it was mine. Um, and I straight up told him,
Anybody who says they've never done that is lying.
talk to me about your beginnings in fishing.
So my family had a cabin when I was growing up at a lake, and I used to spend my time doing two things. I would fish from the time I was a little kid, and I'd ride dirt bikes. And I did one of the two of those things. So it was usually go down to the dock, fish until breakfast or whatever, eat breakfast, go ride my dirt bike during the day, fish in the evening. And that was my summers for my childhood, and catching pike and perch, and it was something that hooked me the instant I did it. And there's a cliche in fishing that the tug is the drug. So you catch a fish, it tugs your line, and it's I guess the release in the brain of the endorphins it creates is, I don't know if it's addictive, but it's what everybody who fishes and enjoys fishing chases. And yeah, that hooked into me, pun intended, at an early age. And yeah, I was so into it as a little kid that when email first came out and you're in elementary school and you create an email, mine was fishboy@hotmail.com. Every time I had carte blanche to do anything artistic in school was always around fish. And yeah, I just carried that into adulthood, and it was I got made fun of in school for being the fish boy and loving fishing, and I never really gave a shit. I just did my thing. But it's a sport that, particularly since COVID, has really grown in popularity. Fishing and golf are
huge.
Yeah, based on what I've seen, and I do both. I love to golf, but it's like when the world locked down in 2020, all these people who didn't do outdoor things realized that they couldn't engage in a lot of their hobbies. Gyms were closed, malls were closed, movie theaters, restaurants, everything was toast. So they all started flocking outdoors, and yeah, it's no longer nerdy or dorky to be a fisherman anymore, which is good and bad. But yeah, that's kind of it. It's something I've never abandoned. It's something that I've always consistently done my whole life, and it's on top of being exciting, the thrill of catching a fish, it's a great way to pay attention to the environment around you and spend time in the outdoors. It's incredibly relaxing.
So what kind of anchors, like, because I find it interesting because fishing is one of those things where, would you agree or disagree that it takes a type of personality trait to like succeed in fishing?
Patience and solitude are two big things. I mean, it's so I'm gonna go a little bit more in depth to explain where I'm going with this, but like a lot of people will, they'll throw out a lure or a bait, and they'll fish passively and wait for a fish to come in and take the bait, or they'll just reel in their lure and kind of sit in a spot or sit in a boat or whatever. What I do now more than anything is the last several years I got big into fly fishing. And it, to me, the allure of it is the solitude. It's hard to find, a lot of people who want to go on, not just go fishing, but go on an adventure. And there's a lot of patience involved with regards to some days. For example, I took a week off work, not last week, but the week before. And I woke up at 4:30 in the morning. I drove 4 hours, fished a spot that I caught a bunch of fish in almost the exact same time the previous year. Spent all day in that stretch of river looking for fish. Um, and then drove 4 hours home and got nothing but maybe a half dozen little fish. So those are days that can be taxing, but at the same time, I got to spend all day unplugged in the wilderness. So at times where, your patience may be tested, there's other redeeming qualities or factors with the hobby. And it's evolved from, I used to fish the North Saskatchewan River a ton. I got to know it very well, the fish species really well. But again, that was, sitting in a spot, waiting for things to happen, maybe driving to another spot if you're not getting anything. But what I do now is I go out into the middle of nowhere. I research a body of water. I research kind of the terrain around it, what's in it for fish. I try and find out what bugs are around because trout, which is what I primarily fish for most of the time now, will eat different things at different time of year. They'll eat different things depending on what the water temperature is, the cloud cover's like, the weather affects things fairly significantly. And then, I'll drive 3 or 4 hours out into the middle of nowhere. Sometimes I'll fly down a giant hill, like I did a couple weeks ago, hike 8 to 10 kilometers, and then make my way back. And it's a full day and it's an adventure. And oftentimes you're alone. It's quiet. There's certain considerations for safety you have to make. It's not, it's not going down to Horlack Park and throwing a line in the water.
So with when you talk about this, do you think that's the same type of journey that everybody has in terms of the learning curve?
Fishing is so intrinsically rewarding to me that I think it's hard to quantify what success is. I think the level of enjoyment you get out of something like that is kind of your determining factor. But I mean, we have a limited amount of bodies of water in the province compared to, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, and the pressure has been getting heavier. But I mean, it's still easy, I guess, to a degree, if you want to put it that way, to go out and just catch fish. But the thing is a lot of people will go out, they'll just buy a rod, they'll buy whatever lures that catch their eye. Oh, this one's pretty. Oh, this one kind of looks like a fish. You need to approach it with a purpose, and you have to understand what you're doing in order to do it successfully. But you could go almost anywhere in the North Saskatchewan River, and if you figure out what the right approach is, you'll catch fish almost anywhere in that river. It's one of the healthiest fisheries in the province.
So when you started doing fishing on your own, what would you say the financial pay-in is? It's sub 500?
Oh yeah, easy. Like it's
some couple $100.
Not even that. You could go spend under $100 for a rod and reel, $30 for good line. The line is something you don't want to cheap out on. And then a lot of the terminal tackle, which is your basic weights, leaders, barrel swivels, hooks, is not expensive. Lures have gotten
then what's a license? $30?
Yeah, it's $30. And Alberta has an app where I just auto renew mine every year when it expires, and
it seems like a pretty simple hobby to get it. It seems like a pretty easy barrier to entry, where you look at something like hunting, where it's it's the cost of a rifle, it's the cost of, and then not only that, it's going through the courses and stuff like that. So if you are trying to get into something where you're getting a return in terms of food or even learning that skill, it's probably the best costly efficient.
Yeah.
You
could go out and catch a fish bigger than I've ever caught with $50 worth of gear. That's the beauty of it. And I think that's what's drawn a lot of people to it. Hunting's a perfect example. Other sports, you want to go get go get skis and learn to
Or
ski.
golfing.
Golfing's
Very
expensive. Like
expensive.
it's like the cost of a round of golf has gone up 30-40% in some cases in the last 5 years.
And do you think that's where you see like a huge threshold of people that are coming into it?
I think that's probably got something to do with it too. And
Or is it people's attention span? Like people just get so sick of shit that it's like, I'm just going to do the cheapest thing possible. Or is it like a one and done?
see, I've got spots mapped out on the North Saskatchewan River pretty well over 30 years of fishing. I don't go to them most of the time anymore. Like
Mhm.
I have a couple spots I fish in the fall because big walleye stack up in certain areas, and I know I'm gonna go have a good day every time I go there. But I don't go to a lot of those spots anymore just because I avoid the crowds. Like part of the reason I hike so much when I fly fish is because I'm not gonna fish right by a bridge where everybody who drives out there is gonna be 100 yards this way or 100 yards that way. I'll hike a few kilometers before I even put a line in the water because I like the solitude. Fish are easier to catch when they're not
Mhm.
terribly pressured. So I guess that's a testament to the growing popularity is you're seeing a lot more traffic on the bodies of water.
Mhm. So then you, if you're more of like an advent fit or someone that wants to like dive deeper, you have to kind of explore more, try different tactics and learn different. Like I know with like I had friends who did like bear hunting and like it was like almost like top secret, like where they had their bait sites and like they wouldn't even talk about it in conversation because they were like, I don't need fucking 7 more people pulling up bait sites. Like they're gonna ruin it for me.
Well, yeah, you put all that work into scouting the location, putting your trail cam out, going out and checking it, putting bait out, and then someone goes and shoots your bear.
Yeah, and then you're like, motherfucker.
Yeah. It's the same thing with fishing. It's the community is there's a lot of tight lips about like you burn your gas, you drive your hours, you hike. Maybe you hurt yourself because you fall down a hill or
Yeah.
the log falls on you or whatever. And like I've fished a body of water 4 or 5 times before, different stretches, before I even found fish.
Mhm.
So like if you put in that kind of work, the next time you show up there, if there's 4 guys there, you just drove 4 hours for nothing.
Because they're catching all your fish.
Yeah. And it seems kind of petty on the superficial level, but it's tough to invest all kinds of time for nothing, right?
Mhm. And I think like the more you get into it, just like anybody, you start to become almost like in it to a degree like protective of it, right?
Territorial.
It's like that's my baby, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of diminishes the value.
But I will say, like, I've got buddies I fish with or buddies I don't even fish with. I'll share information with, and I'll take them to my spots or show them, hey, I caught a big grayling here, because there's different types of, I guess there's different mentalities with fishermen, and I'm pretty conservationalist. Like I try not to keep fish out of the water because I want to limit their exposure
like
to
a catch and release.
Yeah, I catch and release everything. I think there's so much pressure in our province that fish as a resource need to be preserved, especially like Pigeon Lake with 1 million 12-inch walleye. I don't care. Like the province is constantly restocking it.
Yeah.
Stocked trout ponds, those exist.
It's
for
like
harvesting.
they're meant.
Yeah.
But then you go to some of these areas and people are just like overfishing the areas.
Yeah, and I mean, you have our native cutthroat trout and our native Athabasca rainbows and bull trout that almost got fished into, oblivion. And years ago, the province has taken strides to try and protect them, but there's still a lot of pressure on them. And I was fishing a fairly remote area with a buddy a couple of weeks ago, and we caught a cutthroat trout that, half its jaw was hanging out from somebody mishandling it or using big treble hooks or something. And then that's something you hate to see. And I think that fuels a little bit of the...
Is there really an issue with like coal miners and like pollution?
The biggest thing from what and I'm in no ways an environmental biologist. I fairly limited knowledge on it, but um, it's about the spawning grounds of the fish. So if their environment gets tampered with in such a way that it prevents them from being able to spawn, lay their eggs, and reproduce, then that's where you get the impacts on the population. So I know a lot of mining is it's creating instability in the ground, in the soil, and you get slides, or they're even rerouting rivers. And of course, the change of the flow is going to change the bottom of the river and wipe out spawning grounds. And once those eggs are laid, so what they're called, the spawning beds of fish, bull trout in particular, are called reds. So what they do is a female will wipe the sediment off the rocks, and then lay her eggs, and that sediment can't be there because it's going to smother the eggs and kill them. So if you have quads driving upstream, they're releasing a whole bunch of sediment, and that's going to cover up whatever. And if they go close to the red, they're going to spook the fish away, and then it's going to get covered. And the destruction of the land upstream, creating a whole bunch of sediment coming down, is going to affect those fish populations. And you know what? I work in oil and gas. I'm all for the economic benefits of our resources, but I think there's maybe a little bit more concern needs to be put into protecting, especially our foothill and mountain streams and rivers.
Because once it's gone, it's gone.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Well, and that's the thing with the mountains is you can drill and you can frack in swamp area, or, well, maybe not swamp area, but up near Fort McMurray, Grand Prairie, where they're doing a lot of work. You can reclaim that land, right?
Yeah,
You can,
because it's just like prairie land, or like it's just like
or
flat.
boreal forest.
Yeah.
It'll take 50 years to regrow, but I've driven up through reclaimed lands, and they're looking awesome. But if you take apart a mountain, you
That's
can't
it.
put it back
You
together.
know, you can't build a mountain.
No.
That's interesting, man. And I want to touch back on fishing later on. When you sent me your bio, you touched on a few things that I think are could make for a very impactful conversation, especially for given that we have all walks of life that come on, we have all types of people that are listening. I think fishing is a very important part of it. But you have an interesting story where you got a bachelor of education. You didn't really put it to use, or you, in some facets you did, but you aren't a teacher now.
Indirectly.
Indirectly. I want to hear about that.
Yeah, so I had the idea in high school that I wanted to be one of two things. I either wanted to be a cop or a teacher. And I figured I would get the teaching degree in case being a cop didn't work out. And being a cop didn't work out. But while I was in university, I worked in the car industry. I worked for the fleet department at the dealership I was at, and that job basically entailed bring this vehicle here, drive that vehicle there. It was
Just dog
sweet.
shit easy.
Yeah, it was great. But the more I got into the world of education, the more I didn't like where educational policy was going. And at the time I graduated, Edmonton Public had implemented their no zero policy. And I saw this sort of trend in education that appeared to me to be removing personal accountability from the students. And it didn't sit well with, I guess, for lack of a better term, my core values. So I got into selling cars after university, and I applied to the police department, and I got deferred, and I figured, well, I'll just follow selling cars because I was good at it. It worked out, and I moved from the domestic dealership I was at to an import dealership, got into management, and that's where I really saw what I didn't like in that business. It was, as a sales manager, your life is very adversarial. So on one hand, you're advocating for your salesperson to make as much money as possible. But I was also advocating for my customer to be as happy as possible. And it's hard to strike that balance because you have two completely diametrically opposed goals.
Yeah. because
So
getting the customer cheaper is taking the money right off the person's plate.
yeah, and the whole thing didn't, the whole mentality of the way that industry is structured didn't fit with me ethically.
Mhm.
I saw sales more as a relationship based thing and a solution based thing than a transactional thing.
Mhm.
I wasn't into the transactional thing. It didn't fulfill me. It didn't drive me. I wasn't motivated by it. I was motivated by the guy that I gave a really good deal to coming back to me and buying another car in 3 years instead of me whacking him at the time and then burying him for 7. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I needed a change. I got into a similar role to I'm in now with a different company in a different industry, and it was great. You forge relationships. You become, for the product you sell to your customer base, you become their guy,
Mhm.
right? You're the reliable person that's going to help them out when they're in a jam, and they repay you with loyalty.
Repeat business.
Right. And then when COVID hit, I got laid off. The world shut down. The industry I was in got hit really hard. And I mean, I, what the job market was like. It was non-existent. My brother-in-law, worked in corrections, and I saw him going to work, working overtime every day. And I figured, well, my layoff was supposed to be temporary. It was supposed to be 60 days. But after the first 3 weeks, I saw the writing on the wall, because supply chains were hammered as well. And that caused a lot of problems with the business I was in because all of our product we distributed was international. So I applied to get into corrections and ended up there 9 months later.
Yeah.
And, I thought at the time about going back into teaching, but I was so far out of it. And I just don't think I would have had, I don't think I would have had it.
And on top of that too, it's interesting because like you go so far removed. Like I'll give you an example. I used to coach a lot of soccer, and then I stopped doing it for a while, got back into it, and I was like a train wreck. Like it just the way that the nuances that you had, or like the routine that you had, or
Yeah.
whatever it was, and it just fizzled out
Yeah.
super quick to
Yeah.
actually like be able to commit back to that, because it's like, okay, yeah, you got the degree, but where do I have to start now? And am I 5 steps behind?
Certifications.
Yeah.
And to be honest, when COVID hit, I was a year removed from a really bad relationship end. I had a fiance, dog, bought a house together, found out she was cheating,
Right.
terrible things. And I was just not my best self, like at that time when COVID hit. So to go in and be a teacher,
Yeah.
would
You'd be
have,
setting these guys up for,
well,
you'd be taking like your own trauma and like then trying to learn
maybe,
something.
but I wouldn't have been giving it what it needed and what it deserved
Right.
at the time. So it
You'd be
wasn't in the cards.
Yeah, you'd be like 2 separate people trying to like figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting. Now, again, one of the questions that I have though is like, does that change like your thoughts on like the traditional education path, or like do you have any like reservations now about, and was it simply just like a personal choice that you decided not to pursue it?
You know what? It was my choice. Like I could have made a different choice. I'm one of those people that thinks that we have a choice in everything we do. Like everything bad that's quote unquote happened to me didn't really happen to me because it was a byproduct of a choice I made, whether I put myself in a situation or, involve myself with somebody or whatever. If I would have made a different choice, the outcome would have been different. So obviously it was my choice, but in terms of, thinking that I should have gone a different direction educationally, maybe. But I think what can't really be quantified is the value that education gave me that helped me outside of the field of teaching.
Yeah. Gave you like the scaffolding of like being like just good at being an adult as well. Like university, if you can do it right, it gives you so much foundation in like time management,
Yeah.
accountability. Because some of these professors are fucking cutthroat.
They don't give a shit.
They're like, don't show up to my class. I don't give a shit.
Yeah. Manage your time.
It's 5% for attendance. Basically, I'm putting the writing on
Yeah.
the wall that it don't fucking matter if you come.
Yeah. These are the expectations. You either choose to adhere to
But
them or you
I
don't.
have pop quizzes, and if you show up, and it's going to be random, and that's 10%. So it's really interesting
Yeah.
because it's funny because one of the guys that I just talked to this afternoon, we were talking about the idea of like radical accountability and kind of taking this idea of like kind of on the lines of what you're saying, where it's like having this type of accountability where you're saying at some point, like the buck stops at me. Like at some point, it was either something I did now, something I did in the past, or something I plan to do in the future.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, like the stimulus that I'm facing, at some part of it, I manifested it or like
Yeah.
I created. And like a lot of people like to turn around and say, it's this person's fault. It's this. Just like I was talking about with trying to get to like a supervisor role. It's like at some point you need to kind of like reframe your mind
Yeah.
and say like, yeah, there is like some accountability on their end, but it's not my responsibility to put them on that.
Yeah.
Like I can only be accountable for what I'm doing.
That's right.
If you feel that way, well, okay, like
Society right now is ultra offended by everything. We have a choice whether or not we would be offended by something that really doesn't affect us at all.
And I think that's, and without getting into it, but there was a recent incident that happened with a public figure that got shot, and they talked about the difference between sympathy and empathy.
There's a
And
big
then-
difference.
And like, you can feel for someone without feeling bad yourself and letting it affect you. And I think that's a big distinction of like how people see things of like, I think people have this like this like inherent like responsibility that they feel like they have to like suffer with someone instead of saying like, I feel bad that that's going on like to you, but like, I'm not going to take a day off for it.
Because everybody is, I don't know, I might piss some people off, but it seems like people are emotionally fragile when it comes to things that don't matter. And when I say don't matter, I mean social media and the internet. It's like we spend so much time plugged into devices looking at what's going on in a different part of the world, and we get emotionally attached to things that don't affect us in our day-to-day unplugged life.
But do you think the reason for that is because like there is like a feedback loop in place? Like people wouldn't do it unless there was a payoff. So whether that be like social media attention, whether that be sympathy, whether that be like acceptance into a certain group, like there has to be something. So if our society created something that creates a feedback loop, okay, well, what's the problem here? Is it that person? It's like the person like I was talking about. If you needed to get a job as a supervisor and you had to kiss ass, and you kissed ass and got the job, can I blame this guy for kissing ass? That was the was the thing. And it's actively being rewarded. So it's like, well, he's doing nothing wrong. He's finding out if he sits, he gets a treat.
Yeah.
So if the person goes on and cries about X, Y, and Z, and he gets 40,000 likes, well, I guess he's just doing what he needs to do,
but
right?
There
So
are consequences.
Yes,
And
I agree.
That's the crux of the whole thing and
Then that falls apart and people go, why me?
You asked exactly. And you asked about the reward. What the internet has created is instant gratification. You can spend 0.3 of a second typing a question and you get an immediate answer. And I think there's certain hormonal chemicals in the brain that are released when you get that instant gratification that people are drawn to that. And I'll circling back to fishing, I'll use an example. I'll research. I got Google Maps with hundreds of pins, and I'll spend hours doing that. And then I'll spend time researching a body of water, and then I'll put in, the legwork. I got boots on the ground. I'll hike all day and not see anything, but I know that spot is shitty now, so I got to go to another one. So that's another whole dig. people want that information to go catch those fish right now instead of putting in the work. So the instant gratification is the reward that people are seeking. And that's the choices they're making. And that's okay. That's their choice to make. But there's certain consequences intended or unintended of that. And same with my approach to things.
Yeah.
Going and walking, a consequence
Could be getting hurt.
could be not seeing any fish for the
Right.
day and having to go out another time and potentially catch no fish. But I find the effort put in to finally finding those fish far aways if, I would have asked somebody on the internet and they told me where the fish are, I went and caught them. That's,
Right.
to me, is not as rewarding.
Do you think that's a maturity thing?
I think there's a generational gap because
Or like, do you think self-awareness and maturity go hand in hand, or do you think those are two different scales?
it's hard to say. There's so much variability with what shapes people and what
like
shapes
life,
what.
like lived, like life.
Yeah, and there's obviously genetic predispositions to certain personality traits, and I think there's just too much variability to say one way or another what.
Because it's interesting because like going into it, like we talk about like career changes and pivots and stuff like that. Like, do you think that type of journey that you had allows you to see it in that light rather than this type of instant gratification? Because like you kind of had these moments where it's like up, down, up.
Yeah, faced adversity.
This person's never been told they suck ever.
Yeah, the amount of adversity I faced, I feel definitely has impacted my mindset and my worldview, but I wouldn't call it hardening. I've tried to maintain a pretty positive outlook on life, regardless of what kind of adversity I might come across. But I prefer to think of it as resilience.
Yeah.
And I think that resilience is what you were referring to with the people we worked with. They haven't developed resilience because they've gotten very lucky and not faced a lot of adversity, or they've grown up in situations where they didn't face a lot of adversity, or maybe they've just made really good choices. But I definitely think that's something that if I could go back in time and change my future, let's say I went back to 2018 or 2010 or 2005, I wouldn't change a thing because I value the lessons I've learned. I value the adversity I faced because I feel it's made me a lot more even-keeled and level-headed type person. And prepared me for whatever adversity I'm going to face in the future. And I don't think you can put a price on that. I think that's a really valuable thing.
Well, and it's also one of those things too, where there's no other way to gain. Like the only way to deal with people fighting is to see people fight.
Yeah.
And it's so fucked up because you're like, so you tell me that I have to get fucked over to learn how to handle getting fucked over. Yeah. And then you have to start to say, are they the asshole or are you the asshole?
That's right. And
right?
You know what? For me, in terms of mental health, my ex did what she did. I can only control what I can control. And my decisions put me in that situation. And if I would have harbored resentment and if I would have fixated on, she's a bad person, she did me wrong, then I'd just be circulating on that and I'd be making myself miserable.
Do you think you reflect on things early on in life and say like, oh, if only I knew what I knew now?
Sometimes. I mean, I think that's a natural function of the brain.
Hindsight is 20/20, but like you kind of unlock like this other skill tree in your brain where you're like, oh, that's why I stole at 14 years old.
And you recognize the motivation for things years later, retrospectively.
Right. And then you can say like, oh, well, yeah, it was still shitty, but I can at least like sit back and understand like that was some sort of flaw or some sort of like dynamic that I haven't like grown into yet.
Yeah. Or I made a decision for one reason when really I should have valued something else. Yeah. 100%. 100% that happens.
Yeah. It's interesting. And like the farther on you go, the more you go back and been like, well, I probably would have done that differently. Yeah. But
you can't dwell on it.
No, but it's wholesome. It's wholesome, right?
It's a moment.
Right. And then you say like, well, I'm glad that I was able to have that introspectiveness and look back.
But you know what? Those recognitions are what prepare you to make better decisions down the road.
100%. It's really admirable to see that. And
The biggest thing I learned
yeah,
is sometimes no matter what you do, you don't have control. And that's what COVID taught me, because I used to try and control my environment. I used to control all of my routines, and I'm still very routine driven. I like predictability in day-to-day life. But the biggest thing it taught me was I could do everything right. And
still,
sometimes things out of your control are going to happen and you have to adapt. And it's almost liberating when you let go of that trying to control everything that happens to you. And sometimes you just remind yourself you can only control what you can control.
Yeah.
And that's all you worry about. And it frees so much.
You have so much focus on everything else, right? It's amazing once you find it, but getting there is...
It hurts.
Yeah.
It sucks. It's terrifying. Like the first day when I got that call, and again, I'm a year removed from a relationship I was in for 8 years, living by myself for the first time, have this house I have to pay for, and you get the phone call that, the world's fucked globally because some virus decided to show itself and the world's shutting down and you're out of a job. That moment, that holy fuck.
Yeah.
What do I do? Like I did not have this on the bingo card.
Yeah.
I never would have guessed that this is what's going to happen. And you just sit there and you're just like, what the fuck do I do? What? Like, what's the next play?
Yeah.
What is happening? And it's terrifying, but I mean, you get past it. You figure out a plan on how to move forward. But that first moment, it's nothing like it.
Now, through all of this, was fishing always like a consistent thing for you?
Yeah. So, well, I mean, I job hunted nonstop, even as I was going through the corrections process, because it took forever. But I guess that those two things happening in that short period of time pushed me deeper into the fishing.
Right.
Because I've always loved nature. I'm out and I'm hiking to a fishing spot or I'm fishing a river. I'm always, I stop to look at the birds flying overhead. I'm watching the bugs on the water. I'm listening to the trees ruffling and the running water. And I'm smelling the water and the algae and the pine needles.
Living in the moment.
It's cathartic. Like it's one of the most calming and relaxing things. And I think that moment of that period of great stress just pushed me deeper into
almost in a need.
Almost. I think it was therapeutic for me. It kept me centered.
Like, this is my way to like almost rewire or like get back to like a grounded focus.
So instead of fishing once a month or twice a month or even, hitting the North Saskatchewan once or twice a week for a few hours, that time I had off, whereas I could have been at home going stir crazy or sending second resumes to jobs postings, because there's only so many. There's a point where like you hit the end,
and then you're just like refreshing your email. Like
I was going out and spending almost every day in the wilderness.
Yeah.
And for a period of time, and it's something that it grounds you and it brings you back.
Yeah. That's wild, man. And I'm so happy for you that you had something like that to like almost like give you that therapy or like allow you that kind of therapeutic outlet. Cause it's like, who knows where you'd be if you didn't have it, right?
I would have lost my mind. And you know what? It doesn't matter what it is, but I think it's important for everybody to have something like that where they can get lost in it and they can shut off the world and they can almost reboot.
And is that something too, where was the solidarity something that was like a key proponent of that? Like, say if it was pickleball, it's like you probably wouldn't have got the same type of...
For me, I've always been a bit of a lone wolf. Like I have close friends. I spend time with people. I'm social, but I don't like big crowds. I have limited energy for noisy, bustling environments. There's just something to me that's uniquely calming about solitude.
And what do you, when you're there, is there like a lot of self-talk?
I don't know. Maybe.
Like my internal dialogue is like a fucking jet engine. Like it just never stops.
For
Like,
me, it would be like don't step here. I wonder
okay,
if there's a fish over there. This current's fucking fast. I better
yeah,
find a way around.
right,
Holy shit, was that a bear?
yeah,
Like I'm having narration thoughts about what I'm
mhm,
doing
yeah,
more than
like
anything else, and that's what allows me to release the
mhm,
hamster wheel of other thoughts, right? The stresses, the
right, right. Because some people would do something like that, and then it would be like you sitting at home, and it would create the same effect.
yeah.
Where if they had that much time by themselves, it would make them go crazy.
Oh yeah, it would drive
You
me
know,
nuts.
so it's interesting too, because like that same experience would like almost send someone deeper
Yeah,
off the end board than it would to help them. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Um, but talking about fishing and like finding like your ability, we talked about it earlier, of like creating this social media account. And I think the way you talk about it is it's very wholesome of you wanted to create that community. And I kind of want to hear a little bit more about that.
yeah. So initially, I was, I knew some people that caught some fish, shared some adventures on social media, got recognized by this lure manufacturer, this rod maker, or whatever, and they'd start getting discounts and getting deals on stuff and getting free stuff in some instances. And I've thought, I've fished my whole life. Why not get a little return on my investment here? But you know what? Quickly, I realized I didn't really give a shit about that.
Mhm.
I thought it almost enhanced my journey that I could not I mean, yes, share it with others, but create memories for myself,
Mhm.
without running out of storage on my phone, and kind of exercise some creativity while doing it. And to me, that's what's fun. Like I'll make a small video of releasing a fish or bugs that I find or whatever. And it's fun putting things together in a creative way. And
Mhm.
that's really what I've learned drives me from the social media standpoint. I mean, it's more for internal satisfaction than an external gratification. I mean, obviously it's nice when people are like, "Hey, that's a sick video." Like that makes you feel good. That's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, thank you."
Yeah.
But it's it's the process of creating it that drives me.
Do you think using social media or using that in like such an integral part of like your own therapy is somewhat gonna like taint the waters?
So early on, when I realized that I enjoyed doing it for myself more than maybe monetizing it,
Mhm.
is I realized that really quick. I
'Cause
didn't
yeah,
I didn't like being like, okay, how do I film this? What's this supposed to look like? That fish isn't big enough. Whatever these thoughts are, I
right.
was like, fuck, I don't got time for that shit.
Yeah.
Like if I
It totally shifts the focus of what
yeah,
you're trying to do.
if I got time to think like, oh, I'll turn on the GoPro, then I have time to think about it and it goes on and then I'll look through it later.
No,
I
that's a
don't
good
care.
way. That's a good way of doing
Like
it.
I've there's so many times where a moment happens that would have been great to capture, but whatever. There's gonna be
Yeah.
more moments. Like if I catch one, I catch one. If I go out and I don't make any content, my
And
consolation prize is a great day doing what I love. Like, so
yeah.
who cares?
And it's like you can only like go so far into that realm without like you almost have to like keep it safe in a way, keep it protected. Cause then you start like integrating all of these different things. It's like it's like, what am I actually doing this for? Now the motivation gets so different in what I'm actually trying
Yeah,
to do. Like I felt it early on with podcasting where everywhere I went, I was like prospecting guests.
yeah,
So like every single place I went, it's like, I wonder if these, and it still happens now,
sure.
but it's on a very lesser degree of like I'm able to quickly let those thoughts like come in, register, and then be like, okay,
And
I'll
it's
put that,
happening organically.
and then I just go, I'll put that on the back burner. If I
Yeah,
get to it, I get to it.
yeah,
But it's like an active thing that I actively have to like even using my phone or checking social media, it's like an active habit that I have to be like, all right, enough. Like, because it's infinite. It's legit infinite. Like in the type of realm like that, even when you look at the skill of fishing, it's like you could invest so much time and effort,
Oh,
but
yeah.
there's no guarantee that it actually equates to like legitimate success. Like I was asking the guy I interviewed today, he's a comedian, and I said like, when you have one day that relies on 5 minutes of telling jokes, how do you define like the other 23 hours and 55 minutes of like what work you're doing that actually is contributing to like a tangible thing
Yeah.
that you're bringing back? Like what matters here is like the hour of conversation, but it's like I could sit and read the questions for 6 hours, but how am I having this like internal thing that's telling me like, okay, you've done all you can do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and you have to have this like internal governor with everything of being like, yo, I've done everything I can do. And like, now I'm just spinning my tires.
Yeah.
And, so with
That's
any,
the difference between being committed and obsessive, maybe.
yeah, 100%. Right. And it takes a level of like that self-awareness to know like, okay, at this point, I'm just fucking around.
Yeah.
Like at this point, I'm not really doing much that's like adding to like
No, I'm
any
reinventing the wheel.
Yeah. Not even that. You're probably just sitting. Like there's so many times I'll just be sitting there rerunning the same thing. And I have to like stop myself and be like, okay,
Don't overthink it.
is what, yeah, see, like when I write down the questions, it's like I do one right because I've gone through so many times where I'd rewrite my questions 5 different times and then they get so chopped and fucked that like what I wanted to ask was
It's
at the
gone.
beginning.
Yeah.
And now what I'm asking is so convoluted and tricky and I'm just like doing too much.
Yeah.
And then it's like what's happening just isn't really, where it's the same thing with like creating organic content where it's like if you push it, it's probably shit.
Yeah. Hey, things need to be organic. Where I get looped is figuring out where to go fish.
Mm-hmm.
Because I get spooling in my head about, okay, this spot's unknown. There might not be fish, might be a shitty day. This spot I know, but I've caught all those fish before several times. I'm bored of it. But what about this spot? I know nothing about it.
Mm-hmm.
I know a little bit about this. And I have to catch myself and be like, just fucking go out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't worry about where you're going.
The only way to do the thing is to do the thing. Yeah.
And if I get stuck in the mud, that's the one spot I sometimes get stuck in the mud on. But yeah, it's a constant battle.
Yeah.
You just got to let go and just go do it.
It is interesting, but it does seem like you have a very healthy balance in regards to that. And
Thanks.
yeah, it definitely is. It's definitely tricky, and it takes a lot of, like you said, a lot of adversity. It takes a lot of like these recognizing and having the accountability of saying like, is this something like, and also like you talked about too, where you say like, if I would go back, I wouldn't change anything because like that's informed what I've been doing now. And like, if I didn't do that then, or I went back and changed things, like, would I be as resilient now? And it's very sobering because it's definitely a very like nuanced way of thinking. And I appreciate that you were able to kind of divulge that and have that conversation. Before I let you go, what do you think is some advice that you'd give to someone coming into the hobby of fishing?
I think the biggest thing would be figure out what you want to get out of it. Like, are you motivated by external factors or are you there intrinsically because you love it? And it's, to me, what fishing is the hobby that if I spend 8 hours in a day and I get a little fish, smaller than anybody else's fish, but that fish took me a lot of fucking work to get, I'm happy because that's my reward. And fishing, and it's so cliche. It's so cliche, but to me, it's about the journey more so than the end result.
The destination.
It's, it's about, and I enjoy all kinds of fishing. Like I enjoy sitting on a riverbank with some bait and waiting for some fish to bite. That's fun.
Mm-hmm.
That's got its time and its place. It's rewarding in its own way. It's fun to sit in a boat, and sit over the fish and catch them in a boat. But
Right.
for me, what drives me for fly fishing is the amount of work it takes to get what you get.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that reward that I enjoy. And anybody who gets into fishing, I hope that they try and experience that, right? It's to me, there's very little in this world that's more rewarding than that, outside of personal relationships and family.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, that's what it is. That's why I wake up at 4:30 in the morning and drive 8-hour round trips for potentially nothing, is
Mm-hmm.
because it's the reward is the journey.
Mm-hmm. Anything you got coming up? Any big trips? Any big challenges?
This weekend I'm going out.
Yeah.
Gonna fish some waters that I'm becoming more familiar with, and it's
I'll
a
have
good
to
time
come
of
out with
year.
you.
Yeah.
I'll have to come out with you. I'm on this like personal journey to like do new things and get out there and you be a testament to like actually like wanting to learn more about people on top of learning about more myself. So I think this would be like obviously if you'd have me, but I think this would add to like future conversations if I was able to
Yeah.
sit out with you and do that.
Yeah. I'll take you out into the bush.
That'd be amazing. Where can people follow you and follow your journey? Is your account public or private?
It's public.
It's
Yeah.
public. Where
Yeah.
can people find you?
At Tangled Angler. I don't remember if I got 2 R's at the end or one.
We'll
but
put all of the.
yeah.
That's the only social media. Instagram.
yeah, that's
Okay.
that's it.
Just
I don't
Instagram.
have time for
No.
doing this on multiple platforms.
No.
It's
Trust me, it's the 8 hours round trip is probably just as much time as managing this for a week. It's definitely like its own thing. But yeah, man.
I appreciate you having me.
Of course, man. I loved it. I think this was a great conversation.
Oh, yeah.
I appreciate you coming on, man. I think you have a lot of wisdom. I think you have a lot of experience, and getting to talk about something completely nuanced for me at least. And it was very refreshing. And I know for sure that my audience, our audience now, because this is a collective, a community that we're trying to build here. And I know that our audience is definitely going to appreciate this conversation. I'm really excited for it to come out. Yeah. And people listening, Tangled Angler on Instagram. Yeah, man. Amazing conversation. It's interesting. You have conversations like this, and some conversations drain you, and then some conversations like recharge your battery. And this was definitely like a recharging my battery.
Thanks, man.
Like,
That means a lot.
Yeah, like this was definitely like a revitalizing thing where it gave me motivation. It didn't like draw from like my emotional energy. So I appreciate
that.
With that concludes one of many, man. I think this is going to be the start to something cool. I can't wait to have you on for
Thanks.
conversations after this. Now that we kind of like broke the seal on this, I think every conversation throughout is going to be
insightful,
a lot bigger, right? With that has been Solo Spotlight. I've been your host, Ryan McDougall. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, comment below. What has been your favorite part? What are some questions you have about fishing or getting into fishing, fly fishing? Any considerations that we should have talked about? And having your support helps us grow the channel, as well as have guests like Anthony and other people in these expertise fields. And see you next week.
Thank you.